This week's video is unlike any other video. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Chris. Click subscribe. It'd be awesome. This week's video is unlike any other video that I've ever made in the sense that, well, if you pay close attention, you're not going to see any of those little daily pop-ups other than that one maybe, because we're doing this all in one day. I was not able to film this week. I had a tough choice to make in a sense. Allow me to explain. So this week I started a new health and fitness routine with a new coach, and that set me on a new schedule. Things are taking a little longer. Like with anything, when you first crochet a new pattern, it's going to take you longer than if you've crocheted it 50 times before. So there was a lot of adjusting going on, meal preps and all these kind of things happening this week. And it got to the point of where on day one, I was like, wow, I have a half an hour and my choices are to film or to crochet. And I don't really have anything to film if I'm not crocheting. So I decided to go ahead and focus all of my time this week on crocheting rather than filming. And then thought I would sit down and we would do a video on Saturday because there's more time in the day. I will probably do this for next week's video as well because I'm still getting adjusted. And the following week, actually, my family and I are going on vacation. So I'll take you guys along for a little kind of vacation crocheting, how much can I crochet on vacation type vlog thing. And then when I come back from vacation, depending on how the schedule's going, I might do a few more like this. If not, I'll get right back into what we were doing before. But, let me know in the comments down below if you have a preference, because either way works fine for me. I'm definitely going to get into showing you what I made this week. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about market prep and my inventory, because I want to go through some things that I've learned. I realize at this point that I am halfway to my market from when I started market prep. So when I started my first kind of market prep specific video, I had 20 weeks to market. And as of this week, I have 10 weeks to my market, which sounds like a lot, but with vacation and other things that are going to be going on in between, I'm really feeling the time crunch, and I've learned a lot of things in these last 10 weeks. So I just kind of want to share with you what I've gone through, look at the inventory and see what changes I need to make to be better prepared for the market. I'll leave timestamps below. So if you're not interested in the market chat and you just want to see what I made, you can jump ahead. So my goal for this market was to make at least 200 plushies to sell. Now this is including all of the minis, so any and everything. I looked at my inventory the other day and I am at about 166, provided nothing sells through Etsy in between now and the market. But if anything, that's going to be little ones and twosies. But I started to realize that some of the patterns took longer than I anticipated, or were falling into different pricing categories. So something that I thought might have been like a nice $10 item ended up taking enough time and effort that it really falls into the more above $15 or $20 range. So that's why I kind of want to take a look at what's left to be made in my kind of little buckets of weekly makes when I spin the wheel and see what's there, so that when I'm starting to go into this last half of market prep, I'm really like laser focused on making the things that I really, really want to make sure I have done and that I have them set in a way that is feasible to be able to make those by the time the market comes. So we're going to jump into the computer and I'm going to kind of show you a couple things in Notion and how I'm doing things. If it helps you, if this is something that you want a copy of this template for or anything, let me know in the comments. If you use Notion, I think I can kind of extract it as a template and send it to you. And we can do that. But let's go ahead and jump in, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how I have this set up and show you kind of what I'm thinking. All right, so what we're looking at here is my Market Makes Fall Festival. So what I do is I create a quick database of all the plushies that I want to make that are very market specific, because that's going to vary to a certain extent. I have my staple items already populated, but then anything that's like Halloween specific for this market, or, Christmas items, which will be in the next market, then I have them in here. And this is kind of where I manage what I'm currently making. And you'll see right now I have this sorted for showing the zombie week, which I just finished. What I do is when I'm done with the week's makes, I select them and I move them over into my active inventory. And then I'll make any adjustments if I want to, have them as separate items. That's where I do all of my pricing and all of that good stuff. All right, so let's take a look at Mushroom Week, which is one of the next open items that I still have. So for this, I have that I wanted to make 5 mushy boys and 10 of the itty bitty mushy pops. I think that's very feasible. I definitely want to have mushrooms. It's very on theme for me. So I think I'm really good with that category. Next up was Possum Week. So I have the Possum Snuggler type. That's the All From Jade pattern. And then I have little mini possums that I want to make for my minis bin. So I had 3 of the kind of snuggler sized items and then 10 of the possums. Based on my experience with making the other snugglers, I want to say I made 3 or 4 that week. I don't think that adding another 10 minis to that would be out of hand, but I was thinking that I would really like to have some kind of possum that's more like the size of the toad, something a little chunkier, a little heftier, that's not quite a mini, maybe a $8 or $10 item, because I think possums are pretty popular and I love making them and I love possums. I've not made one that size, but I'm thinking that maybe if I use the mini possum pattern in a blanket yarn, it might come out to that size. So I think I'm going to go ahead and add that. I'm just going to call them chonky and add that in and maybe say I'll attempt to make 5. That'll be a bit of a stretch goal for that week, but that would make me happy with my number of possums. All right, next up is I had a Dino Week. Dino Week, I'm a little bit on the fence about because I love the dinosaurs. I think they're really cool, but both of these patterns are going to be time consuming. I've never made them before, and the Brontosaurus pattern I was looking at is pretty large. It's one of those where you do the 4 legs, then you do the body patch, and then go up, and I think it's going to be something that's quite time consuming. So I don't think it's realistic to make 3 of those plush. So I'm not sure that it's realistic to make 3 of those large dinos plus the other 2-in-1 dino pattern that I had that I wanted to make 3 of. And I gotta be quite honest, like, I like dinos and I think they'll probably sell well, but it's not one of the items I'm looking forward to making. So I think that one might come off the list for now and become like a, if time permits. I think I'm gonna add an if time permits category. And I'm going to change those to if time permits. I don't know. I'm not feeling them. All right, next up is Weirdo Week. This is some cute, fun stuff that I definitely want to make. And I'm looking at my goal of making 5 of each. And I want to make more of these if possible. I'm not going to change the number for now. That'll be like my bare minimum, and then I'll go from there. So one of them is a googly eye monster, and that's a pattern by Loops and Knots Crochet. Stressies, so little stress blobs where the thing like squeezes out, that is something I definitely want to make. And then fidget worms, which I will probably use Celestial Homebody's pattern for that. She has a free YouTube tutorial, so that'll be something that should be a quick and easy make. So I'm pretty happy with those. I definitely want to keep that in the rotation. Next up is Creep Week. In that I've got 3 plague doctors, and I think that's reasonable. I've never made this pattern before. I just purchased it not long ago. It looks like it's got a couple bits to it, but I think it's probably doable. It's not a huge size. Next is FNAF characters. So I purchased a pattern a while back. That's Five Nights at Freddy's, if you're not familiar. They're kind of based off creepy animatronic characters like you'd see at a Chuck E. Cheese. And I have 2 characters in that pattern. It's Freddy Fazbear and Bonnie the Bunny. I wanted to make 2 of each of those. I had big goals when I made this list, because that plus the Plague Doctors plus a creepy Forest Guardian is not something that's feasible for a week. I think I had another Forest Guardian in another category, and that should probably go with that versus be in this category. Is that Enchanted Week? I think that might be Enchanted Week. I'm going to move that one. So I think the Plague Doctors and the FNAF characters it's doable to make one of each of the FNAF characters maybe, but I think two of each is a little ambitious. We're going to go ahead and keep it anyway, just to see what happens. And that'll scoot us into Enchanted Week, and we'll take a look at that. So Enchanted Week, I remember this because that's where I added the Demigorgon baby. So my Demigorgon that sold on Etsy, I really want to have one at this market. So I put it into this bucket. I just kind of plopped in two. I don't know that I'm going to make two. I had a Forest Guardian that's a regular one because I want to replenish the one that I had, and then a creepier Forest Guardian, so like maybe with the white pupil eyes and some darker colors or something along that line. But and then I had a Willow Unicorn. The Willow Unicorn, I'm going to take it out altogether. It's a beautiful pattern. I definitely want to make it at some point, but that is going to be a pattern that's going to take a lot of time with all of the hair and all of that stuff. I think I'm just going to completely delete it. I don't even think it's an if time permits, because if there's time, I think I'd rather get a bunch of dinos in, and I think I could do 2 or even 3 dinos in the time it would take me to do the Willow Unicorn. And strangely enough, from what I hear, the unicorns don't sell super well, and that would be something that would be a very expensive item. I would rather focus on dragons and things like that right now. I definitely want to make one at some point, but I'm going to take it out for now. So 2 Demigorgon babies and 2 Forest Guardians is an ambitious goal, but we're going to leave that for the Enchanted Week. And I think that brings me to the end. There's a Mystical Makes Week, which I had already done, and then I went in and added something too. I found this really cool pattern for Kalani the Water Dragon, and I thought that was really cool. And Wonder Crochet just came out with a little sea monster that I think is awesome. This will be a stretch goal, but I'm going to add that. I'm going to change this to like 2. Ooh, not 32, 2. So I need to add Mystical Makes to the wheel so that we can go in and maybe make those as well. So I'll swap out dinos for Mystical Makes. And then I have a category that I had created, which is Extra Makes. This is all the stuff that, like, kind of the if time permits, but this was my other original bucket for it. So I originally wanted to make like some basic keychains, some bag charms, and what I was considering the difference between the two was keychains was like slapping a keychain onto a mini or a small plushie, and then bag charms was going to be what I had in my mind of having like additional strands to the keychain. So that had like beads and crystals and just like an elevated, bag charm, and maybe a slightly larger size plushie on that. I love the thought of doing that. I just don't know that I'm going to have time to do that. So I'm going to plop that into if time permits, because that's going to take a good amount of time. I don't have any keychain stuff. I've never made a keychain. So the rest of this was all things that, I either added as stretch items or I've made already, like the spiders, and I want to make more of. On here is also a pattern called Bad Bunny, which is like a 2-headed bunny. I like that pattern a lot, but I am going to remove it. It's similar to the Spooky Kitty that I just did this week, and it's got the color changes throughout the body because it's split and then it has 2 heads, and it's just not, I don't know. I'm torn because it's kind of cool for Halloween. I'll leave it on the if time permits. We'll move it to if time permits. So the way this is going to work is Extra Makes is I definitely want to try to do them. The if time permits is the if I'm done with all of this and I have time, because that's going to happen. So on this list, I have wisps, I have axolotls, which I might take the axolotls off. I'll leave them on. I'll leave them for now, but all right, axolotls are moving to if time permits because I like them and I know they sell. So here's the thing, and I don't know if you feel this way as well. There's a certain balance between creating what you love to make and what you want to have be your brand, your aesthetic, your items, for you. And then there's what do people want to buy? And I have a hard time with that because I definitely want to be a people pleaser. I want to offer the things that people want to make, but I don't like making chickens, man. Like, I don't know if I ever want to make another chicken again. Now, if I go to the market and the chickens sell like hotcakes, it's the first thing to sell out. It's the only thing to sell out. Yeah, I'll make chickens. I'm hoping to find my people. I'm hoping to find my audience, my core customer who loves the things that I make, and what's in my brand essentially. So, axolotls, I'm kind of on the fence. And the same thing kind of with loaf cats. Like, I actually enjoy making loaf cats. I think they're adorable. I like the chunky kitties a little better, but the loaf cats are something that's not like, it's quick to make. If people want them, great. I think the thing that irks me is that they are so popular that it kind of makes me not want to make them. I don't know. That makes no sense, but that's my mind here. Anyway, so I have some loaf cats on there. I wanted to do some wisps in the velvet yarn and make them like maybe minis, but I don't necessarily want to put them in the mini bin. I don't know. We'll see. I want to make some bigger rats. I've just been thinking about my rats and I thought I want to make more of my rats, but I thought I'd like to make a bigger rat. So, I recently purchased a pattern that I think is going to come out larger. I'm hoping it's going to come out larger. If not, I wasted money because it looks like the same shape as the pattern I have now. It just looks bigger. So we'll see how that goes. And then I recently added Darth the Dragon, which is the splooting dragon pattern from Snuggle Beans Crochet. That's something that I think I want to make as well. And I think what I'm going to do is when I go on vacation, I am going to bring materials to make from the extras list because that way, that week I didn't have anticipated to create anything. So whatever I create is good, but it's not, where I want to have a goal week where I have to make certain numbers of things. So I'm going to make from the extra makes list when I go on vacation. So that kind of brings us to the wheel. Let's go to the wheel, make an update, and see what we're making next week. All right. So we are in our wheel of names. I am going to make some changes. I'm not going to bother changing the counts or anything, but we're going to swap Dino Week for Mystical Makes Week. Again, not worried about the count. I'm actually going to just take the count off because it annoys me that some will have one and some won't. All right, so we've got mushroom, possum, mystical, weirdo, creep, and enchanted. So let's hide that and take a look and see what our focus is going to be next week. Ooh, looks like possums. Yep. All right, so next week we'll have a focus on possums. This week was Pixie Picks week, and that was kind of just a pricing category that I had created for items that were $10 to $15, and there were some miscellaneous things that I wanted to make that didn't fit into the other categories, so I just plopped them into that one. So let's look at what I made. First up, I made this bat pattern by Mom Stitchetti, which is so freaking cute, but he's big. So I think he's going to be more than $15. I haven't done my pricing yet. I'm going to probably do a full video on going through and figuring out pricing. I have set up the calculations in Notion so that it's accounting for tax, it's accounting for card fees and everything like that, where basically I put in what I'd like to take home based off of material costs and whatnot. And then it adds everything together and essentially tells me this is what you charge at a market. So the calculations are done. I just need to plug in the what I think is fair to take home on these guys based off of material costs, which is also in there. But yeah, this is a really cool pattern. He's adorable. I did paint eyes for each of these that you'll see because I made him in 3 different colors. So that's the purple. Then we have a really cool orange. And again, eyes. I don't know if the camera's going to pick up, but he's got basically star-shaped glitter in his eyes. And another one, adorable. And then I also made him in red. I was thinking about tacking the wings up so that they stay. They're a little like floppy. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments because I kind of like that you could fold them if you wanted to. The back's not as pretty on crochet items, but it is what it is. but they're so squishy and soft. And again, he's got hand painted eyes with the red glitter. So yeah, these guys I was really happy with. Let's get them all together. Like Ally Crochet's family portrait. There we go. So those guys were a lot of fun to make. Pattern super easy, works up really, really quick. All you have to sew on are the ears and the wings. And it's a really small bit of sewing. It's a couple stitches here and then around the ear. But yeah, it's a great, great pattern. Highly recommend if you're looking for a bat pattern. Next up is this hatching dragon egg. And inside, we've got the little cutie. Ah, I love him. Hand-painted eyes for all of these, color coordinated as well. He's got his little wings. And he just tucks into his little shell. This is a pattern by Dr. True Crochet. The dragon is so quick, so easy. Highly, highly recommend because you could just sell him even without the egg, and he's a great little market make. I was considering making more of them, but you saw my list. So, the one thing I will say is that there are 3 styles of eggs in the pattern. I chose to make the one with the bumps because I thought it looked most dragon-like. It killed my hands. I had to take breaks. I would work back and forth between the bats and these guys because the bobble stitches, whatever reason, and maybe it's everyone does this, I don't know. I am like clamped on with my grip when I'm making these bobble stitches, and this many bobble stitches around the hole of this egg. Yeah, it killed my fingers. So I would have to take multiple breaks, but that him in the green, then we have another one in blue with our little cutie here. Again, hand painted eyes. These guys are awesome. I think these are going to sell like hotcakes. I wish my fingers would allow making more, but that's probably not going to happen. And again, you saw my list. And then last but not least, and my favorite color is purple. These guys, I can't with these guys. They're so freaking cute. The little dragons themselves are just outstanding. This is a phenomenal pattern. They do have where it's a plain egg. So, I mean, I could, could maybe get to that point where I can just make some in plain eggs and maybe you could charge a little differently for the plain egg versus, I don't know. I don't know if customers would think that makes sense or what, but, one other thing of note in making these is like, what's up with Parfait Chunky and their quality lately? Because usually Parfait Chunky, yes, there'll be the random rough skein. That light purple is a rough skein. But I got this skein, and I'm going to grab it real quick. Now we have levitating yarn. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, the texture of this thing, but this yarn was so rough, and the light is even worse. The light blue is just even more rough. It was horrible to work with. The dark blue wasn't as bad as the light blue, but and it's funny because I noticed something interesting, or I thought it was interesting, in that if I have a plushie that I'm making and the yarn is soft, it comes out ever so slightly smaller. I don't know if you can see the difference on camera, but he's ever so slightly smaller than the rough one. And I think it's just because I can't stand the sound and the feel of what this is doing on my hook. So I loosen up my tension versus I keep my normal tension when the yarn feels good, because this color was super soft and great. And so is the goblin. So this is key lime and goblin. But yeah, this one was really horrible. And this color is light blue and azure. The azure, again, not as bad as the light blue, but yeah, that was horrible. So anyway, those are the things that I was able to make. I failed on getting the list done completely because I had on there that I wanted to make a bunch of car hanger swing things. And I was going to do some of the animals from the All From Jade pattern as well as some ghosts on swings. I should probably add those to my if time permits. Yeah, I'm gonna add those to if time permits because I would like to just have some of those. But again, like, I feel like I'm just running out of time. There's so much to make in so little time. But anyway, I'm definitely happy with the amount I have made so far. I wasn't sure if I was going to even be able to make 100 plushies, and being at 166 at this point, I'm happy with that. I don't want to have that feeling of not having enough for the market, especially since the first market is an expensive indoor market. People pay to go in there. So I just really want to have as much as I possibly can. So I think I'm just feeling a little bit of those jitters and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, that is all I have for you for today. As I mentioned, next week I'll probably do something similar where I'll give you a little peek into how I'm doing some stuff on the back end, as well as show you what that week's makes are. And I will see you then. If you have made it to the end here, thank you so, so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you and all the comments I've been receiving. We are up to 80 subscribers, which makes me really, really excited and hopeful for the future. So again, as always, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.